We are open, tolerant and generous. But the public rightly expect that we can determine who enters this country and who must leave. To maintain the generosity that allows us to provide sanctuary, we must restore order and control. Rather than deal substantively with this problem, the last Conservative government wasted precious years and £700 million on their failed Rwanda plan, with the lamentable result of just 4 volunteers removed from the country. As a result, they left us with the grotesque chaos of asylum seekers housed in hotels, shuttled around in taxis, with the taxpayer footing the bill. My predecessor as Home Secretary picked up this dreadful inheritance and rebuilt the foundations of a collapsed asylum system. Decision-making has been restored, with a backlog now 18% lower than when we entered office. Removals have increased, reaching nearly 50,000 under this government. Immigration enforcement has hit record levels, with over 8,000 arrests in the last year. The Border Security Bill is progressing through Parliament, and my predecessor struck a historic agreement with the French, which means small boat arrivals can now be sent back to France.
Finally, we urge the government to tread carefully, to act with fairness, to act with efficiency, and to act with compassion for local communities in the UK who want this resolved, but also for asylum seekers too.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I have to say to the honourable gentleman, I wish I had the privilege of walking around this country and not seeing the division that the issue of migration and asylum system is creating across this country. Unlike him, unfortunately, I am the one that is regularly called a fucking packy and told to go back home. It is I who knows through my personal experience and that of my constituents just how divisive the issue of asylum has become in our country. And I do say to him, I wish it were possible to say that there isn't a problem here, that there's nothing to see and that it is all, in fact, just extremist, right-wing talking points. But this system is broken, and it is incumbent on all members of Parliament to acknowledge how badly broken the system is and to make it a moral mission to fix this system so that it stops creating the division that we all see. And I do say to him, I do not think it is acceptable or appropriate for people in this place to not acknowledge the real experience of those who sit outside of this House. We are supposed to be in here to reflect that experience in this House, and I hope that he will approach the debates that we will no doubt have on all of these measures in that spirit.
Madam Deputy Speaker, the reality is we need an asylum and immigration system based on fairness and consistency. My constituency of Vauxhall and Campbell Green is a testament to this. It's a place that's been made richer because of the people who've come here from all over the world. Some of them have fled persecution and have made a home over many years. I meet these people every week in the community and including in schools, where I see those children excited about their future. When this government came into office last year, they were right to say that their priority in this area is to tackle the huge backlog of unprocessed asylum claims left by their predecessor. Clearing that backlog is a big task, Madam Deputy Speaker, but it is right that we identify who has a right to be here. But by introducing more assessments of those who've been here for many years, making new judgments on safety of a country will take considerable resources. So is the Home Secretary confident that these changes will not have an unintentional consequence and actually make it harder to achieve her goal?
I thank my honourable friend for her question. Let me assure her there will be both the administrative system and the resources needed to underpin the asylum changes that we are making. It is already the case that at the end of the 5-year leave to remain period, there is meant to be an assessment as to whether the country of origin remains a safe country or not. What has ended up happening, though, in practice is that has become an almost effectively an automatic pathway to permanent settlement. That is the thing that we are changing. But what I would ask her to do is look look carefully at our protection work and study route, because we will be encouraging those who have sought asylum here, being granted refugee status, to go into work or to study that supports their integration, but it also means that they are making a contribution which actually will retain public support for the system overall.
Does the Home Secretary really believe that having to flee violence, war and persecution means you have won a golden ticket if you are lucky enough to get refugee status here? Does she understand that such rhetoric is deeply offensive and feeds division? Does she accept shutting down routes for settlement will damage integration in our communities and will only strengthen reform, not beat them? And wouldn't a better way of measuring contribution be allowing people to work and pay taxes?
Well,
Secretary.
Well, I would gently point out to her that we have a large number of failed asylum seekers, that is to say people whose claims have not succeeded and who do not have the right to be in this country still here, despite their home country being safe. Many of the people who claim asylum in this country have passed through multiple safe countries across Europe before they end up in the north of France. And we've seen claims go down in Europe and increase here in the UK. And I would just encourage her to remember that we are opening safe and legal routes. The whole point of these reforms is to disincentivise the journeys that lead to criminals earning a lot of money and people being in the north of France, and to move to a system where we have safe legal routes. We've accepted people as refugees before they set foot on UK soil, so that when they come here they can earn and contribute and be fully integrated through models like community sponsorship, which we know work.
Martin Wrigley.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. May I thank the Home Secretary for sharing.
The Denmark-style policies briefed in the last couple of days are dystopian. It's shameful that a Labour government is ripping up the rights and protections of people who have endured unimaginable trauma. Is this how we'd want to be treated if we were fleeing for our lives? Of course not. So how can we be adopting such obviously cruel policies? Is the Home Secretary proud that the government has sunk to such depths that it's now being praised by Tommy Robinson?
Well, Mr. Speaker, look, I'm disappointed at the nature of the question from my honourable friend. I hope she will look at the detail of the reforms. And what I've said already on these matters is that we have a proper problem that it is our moral duty to fix. Our asylum system is broken. The breaking of that asylum system is causing huge division across our whole country. It is a moral mission for me to resolve that division across our country. I know that the reforms I will be setting out later on today can fix this system, and in doing so can unite what is today a divided country.
That Britain has always been a welcoming, generous and warm place for immigrants and people seeking asylum. There will be many people from an Irish background whose ancestors faced prejudice, as there will be many Jews and Muslims that have been the victims of anti-Semitism and Islamophobia. And let's not forget about the Windrush scandal. With what we have heard today, I'm afraid the government has surrendered to past discriminations and the vile rhetoric of reform that we hear today. Does the Home Secretary not see that removing the legal obligation to support asylum seekers who would be otherwise destitute is as far away from Labour Party principles and values as we can get?
Again, I would just really urge my honourable friend not to defend a broken status quo and not to defend people who commit crimes and are funded by the British taxpayer while they do so.
The proposal to raise the threshold for indefinite leave to remain from 5 years to 20 is deeply concerning. At a time when far-right groups exploit fear and spread misinformation, our government should lead with compassion and fairness, not forcing some of the most vulnerable in our society to live in limbo for 2 decades. Will the Minister explain how denying security and rights for 2 decades reflects British values of justice and humanity? And what will access to services look like for people during that time?
Tell my honourable friend not to defend a status quo that sees people spend thousands of pounds paying people smugglers a ton of money to get on a boat and come across the channel through a dangerous crossing that puts their own lives and that of others at risk. I would really urge him not to defend a broken status quo, engage with the detail of these proposals which reflect a new protection work and study route which will be open to those who are offered core protection in this country, and that we will open new safe and legal routes as well.